So, all right. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. وأصلي وأسلم على مبعوث رحمة للعالمين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. We begin in the name of Allah. We praise Him. All praise is due to Him. We praise Him. We seek forgiveness from Him. We seek His aid. And I bear witness that there is no God but He, but Allah, without any partner. And I bear witness that Muhammad was His slave and final messenger. We send our peace and blessings upon our beloved Prophet and upon his family, companions, and those who follow them in righteousness until the day of judgment. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from amongst his righteous followers. Ameen. Okay, so we're going to continue from last time. But just before we get into that, I kind of had a small reflection I wanted to make. For those of you, I think the majority of the people here are aware that we had the Dawah booth today.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah, a lot of people came out. A lot of people came out both to volunteer. We also had a lot of people come to learn about the religion of Islam, right? Some people came for the donuts and the coffee, right? But hopefully everyone left knowing something new about the religion of Islam. And like Brother Ali was telling us, your job is not to convert people. That's not your job. Your job is to share the message of Islam, okay? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Laysa alayka hudahum. He's telling the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam here, you are not the one who's guiding them. It's not your duty to guide them. وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَهْدِي مَن يَشَاءُ. وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَهْدِي مَن يَشَاءُ. Allah is the one who guides. You're not the one giving guidance. Just because you explain something to someone does not mean you're guiding them. You're spreading the message as Allah commanded you to spread the message. As it's part of our religion to spread the da'wah. Brother Ali, what did he say? He said, don't use the word spread. He said, use the word share, right? To share the message, share the da'wah. That's what you're doing. The hidayah comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The guidance comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if someone converts, it's not by your own doings, by the doings of your own hand. It's by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And really, when you convert someone to Islam, the first thing you should do is say, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. You thank Allah, you praise Allah for allowing this person to be guided to Islam, for using you as a person, as an individual, as a Muslim, to share the message. And hopefully, as a result of people hearing the message, then people will be guided to Islam. Okay? I had a conversation almost the entire time.
Yeah, I saw that.
An hour and a half almost. I was conversing with this Christian brother, okay, and he wasn't just like a layman Christian. He was like bringing me evidences from like the Bible, like Genesis this, Deuteronomy this, this quote from this place, that quote from that place. He's like trying to explain to me the Trinity, and I'm telling him, dude, this doesn't make sense. What you're telling me? Like, I was questioning the Trinity. I was questioning the preservation of the Bible. I was questioning the accuracy. I told him about the different contradictions and the discrepancies that are found in the Bible. And subhanAllah, he didn't really have any answers to it, but it was clear that he was well-grounded in his belief, right? So sometimes you'll find people, they are not well-grounded because they have evidence to prove that they're well-grounded, but they're grounded in the sense that this is what they've heard, and so they're kind of like tunnel vision. Right? So they're grounded in that sense. Like they really believe it's true, though they may not necessarily know why. And subhanAllah, you'll find a lot of Muslims like this as well, where they're Muslim because their parents were Muslim. Right? They went to an Islamic school. They don't doubt Islam. You don't go to these people and say, oh, you're not Muslim, you don't learn the proofs and evidences. No. Their parents were Muslim, they're Muslim, right? But perhaps they don't know all of the reasons and the proofs of Islam, and perhaps they haven't studied Tawheed and Aqidah and the different sciences of Islam. Perhaps they haven't read the Quran in depth. Perhaps they haven't ventured into different hadith studies, right? But they still believe that they're Muslim, right? And this is the natural fitrah. This is the natural predisposition. When did we speak about this? Okay, you would. Last class. Was it last class? We did speak about it. Yes, we did. All right. And subhanAllah, although this is kind of straying from the topic that I wanted to focus on today, it is relevant to us. And that is our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? When we're going and we're giving da'wah, it's very important for us to realize why we're doing it. What's our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Some people, I'm going to phrase this a little bit differently. If someone goes and gives da'wah for the sake of showing off, or for the sake of sounding smart, or looking like he's knowledgeable, or whatever the reason may be, and you're not doing it purely and solely for the sake of Allah, then you've lost it. You have lost. Okay, here we go. Claire, sorry, question.
I was going to ask that. How do you know that you're doing it solely for the sake of Allah? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you question yourself?
Good question. Good question. I think we may have touched upon this in the first class. The first class when we spoke about sincerity and intentions. Okay. This is a very common question. How do I know that I'm doing it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How do you know? You can tell me. What do you guys think? I'll give you a common example actually. Oftentimes, okay, let's use an example that we see amongst us here at university. So we'll say, okay, we pray Jama'ah, right? We just pray Isha Jama'ah. If you don't usually pray Sunnah, now it's not obligatory upon you to pray Sunnah. Okay, let's make that very clear. It's not fard, it's not wajib, it's not mandatory. However, it is a highly recommended thing to do. So when you're at home, you don't pray it. Now you come to the Musalla, you come to the MSA, mashallah, everyone's pious, right? Everyone's mashallah, Shaykh al-Islam, everyone's praying Sunnah. And now you feel a little bit left out. Like, oh, I'm the only one that's not praying Sunnah now. You pray Sunnah? Or do you not pray Sunnah? How do you know if your intentions are sincere? Do you guys think?
You touched on this even, like the person, are you acting the same way on your own when you're watching?
Okay. Are you acting the same way on your own?
Yeah. You mentioned something along those lines. So I guess in a way, if you're not doing it by yourself, then maybe you're not.
Or it's like
at the same time, if somebody else is doing it and they're encouraging you, they're not encouraging you, so you might actually be doing it.
I agree. Like it's like if you see someone doing it and you're not doing it, and now you do it just so I don't look bad, then. But if you want to do it now because it's like I should be doing that, now I feel bad because I want to pray to the Creator, then that's the better outcome.
Great answer. That's exactly what I was looking for. If you're doing it, you saw someone do it, they've reminded you of an act of worship. They've reminded you of an act of worship. Now, are you doing it because, I don't want the people to say I'm not religious. I don't want people to say I'm so and so. Or are you doing it because I don't usually do it, but I know there's a reward in it, and he's reminded me of it. And so now I want to do it for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And also I have the time to do it now. I have nothing distracting me, and I can do it, inshallah. Right? The fact that also, so that's one point. But also the second point is the fact that you're questioning your intention, as you said, that's a good sign. When you're asking yourself, am I being sincere? Am I doing this with correct intentions? That in and of itself is a good sign that you're actually thinking about doing things with the correct intention. You're not just going left and right, doing things, showing up. No, you're asking yourself, do I have correct intentions? You're trying to be real with yourself here. Why? Because you understand what it means to have good intentions, and you understand that if you don't have good intentions, and if you do things for other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, particularly when it comes to acts of worship, this is a very dangerous point here, yeah? If you're praying for the sake of other people, are you praying for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala anymore? You're praying for the sake of showing off. Is this praying for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? No. You could be falling into a grave sin at that point, okay? But the fact that you're questioning yourself, this means you're going back. You're taking a step back, okay? Saying, am I being sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? You're recognizing that you need to be sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And hopefully what the outcome is, the outcome of that ponderance that you're having is I'm going to do it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? That's very important. Clear? Okay. So when we talk about our connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one thing that we really need to understand, one thing that we need to focus on, and this is one of also the basics of our creed, our belief as Muslims. One of the basics of our submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Allah is not obligated to do anything for us. He's not compelled to do anything for us. Does that make sense? We're not entitled for anything. I can't come and say, I'm entitled to enter paradise. How prideful you have to be to say that. I'm entitled to be forgiven. I'm entitled for this. That's not the mentality of the believer. Go back to your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How is your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How sincere are you with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? The companions, every single time they would do a good deed, they would ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept their deed. I'm not talking about random students at McMaster University. I'm talking about the companions, the best of generations. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has validated himself in the Quran. Radiallahu anhum wa radu anhu. Allah is pleased with them. Allah is telling you, He's pleased with the companions. They've received validation, and some of them have even received glad tidings of paradise. They've been guaranteed, 10 of them in particular. Amongst them, Abu Bakr and Uthman and Umar and Ali. Guaranteed Jannah. Yet you would find that these people are the ones who sought forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the most, because they understood they're not entitled to anything. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not compelled or obligated to do anything. That makes sense. So you're in a constant need for your Lord. You're in a constant need for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's forgiveness, and for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy, and for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's love. And to give you an example of how sincere they were, how dedicated they were. Okay, when we talk about Ramadan, let's talk about Ramadan for a second, okay? Because it's very pertinent to our lives. When Ramadan enters, what are we trying to do? Like, subhanAllah, my brothers would show me like videos and TikToks and these things of people basically putting okay, how to cut out music, how to start reading more Quran, how to do this, how to stop watching movies. These are all good things, right? These are all very good things. But just to show you where the companions were at, and also what we do is we basically try to calculate, okay, is it possible for it to be Laylatul Qadr on this night, or is it possible on that night? We're trying to take shortcuts. I don't even want to pray all the nights. I want to make sure that I get the night that has Laylatul Qadr. I want to give my donation only on the 27th night of Ramadan, because this will have a higher chance of it being Laylatul Qadr, right? We're just trying to take shortcuts as if we're entitled to something. As if there's something that has been obligated for us, enter Jannah. MashaAllah, you're perfect, man. You just need to catch this one night. The companions were not like this. Ibn al-Qayyim, he wasn't a companion. He was one of the scholars of the Middle Ages. He said if Laylatul Qadr was one night in the entire year, he would stay up the entire year praying every single night just to catch it. How powerful is that? And here we are, knowing that it's in the last 10 nights. And we're still trying to figure out, okay, 21st is unlikely, I'm going to do that. 23rd, unlikely. 25th, 50-50 chance I'll get half. For 27th, oh, very likely in this night. I'm going to go full out 27th. And then once the 29th comes, man, I put all my effort in the 27th, I'm too tired. Allah help us with life. Seriously, it's a reality, right? We have to acknowledge this is what happens. Going back to the companions, after Ramadan, they would pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for 6 months straight, for half the year, asking Allah to accept their deeds from that Ramadan. Imagine, after Ramadan passes, half the year, they're begging their Lord to accept their deeds from that past Ramadan. What are they doing for the next half of the year? Begging that they see the next Ramadan. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, allow us to reach the next Ramadan. Allow us to reach the next Ramadan. There's a story. To be honest, I'm not sure if this is a hadith or if it's just a story that was narrated. But basically, two righteous men. Actually, I believe it's hadith. If I haven't checked it out, you know what? I'm not going to say. I don't know if it's authentic or not. So I don't want to say anything wrong. Okay. We'll continue with what we're going to say. Right. So the thing that I want to focus on here is that we in this society feel like we're entitled to things. That's right? We're always talking about my rights, his rights, her rights, these rights, all the rights. And fine, amongst the human beings, you have hukuk, you have rights. And it is your right to have these rights be realized. Okay? For example, a wife has a right upon her husband for him to spend on her. And it is her right for this to happen. Okay? That's a right. She asks for that right. She has a right to the mehar, for example. She has a right. And this is something that happens, this is such a tangent, but this is something that happens in a lot of our cultures, subhanAllah. It's horrible, really, that the wife feels shy to ask for her mother. Like, it's her right. That's her right. And it's the fault of our cultures that we make it a stigmatized thing for the woman to ask for her right. Like, what's wrong with us? How have we gone so far? So as that we're taking away the rights of people, and then we're making them feel bad about asking for their rights. Like, what kind of practice is this? This is against the religion. It's against the religion, right? But when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's when we need to beg Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for every single thing. Every single thing. And the companions were proof of this. And there's another hadith of the 7 people who will be granted shade on the day of judgment. What's one of these people?
Those who took care of orphans.
No, that's not one of these people. In this particular hadith.
Oh.
Like, سَبْعَةٌ يُظِلُّهُمُ اللَّهُ فِي ظِلِّهِ يَوْمَ لَا ظِلَّ إِلَّا ظِلُّهُ. There are 7 who will be granted shade on the day that there is no shade except Allah's shade. What's the first one? رَجُلٌ قَلْبُهُ مُعَلَّقٌ. Actually, the first one is Imam Ali, a righteous leader or a just judge or just leader. Okay? There's many of them. I don't want to go through all of them. Okay, I'll just tell it to you guys then. One of them is a person who remembers Allah alone at night and he sheds tears. He starts to cry because that is his relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He realizes that there is nothing in this world for him. Nothing in this world for him except what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants to him. And he realizes that this world means nothing if it doesn't mean that he'll enter Jannah. And so he spends his nights crying and begging Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant him paradise. This is the one who realizes he is not entitled to things. And you do the best you can in this life, but at the end of the day, you're at the mercy of your Lord. And that's the beauty of our religion. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala emphasizes to us many a time in the Quran that your Lord is the most forgiving. Your Lord is the most merciful. Your Lord is hearing of your dua. And your Lord will accept your dua. Your Lord is close to you. He wants you to come closer to him. He listens and he accepts and he forgives. And not only does he forgive, but he replaces your bad deeds with good deeds. And he'll elevate your status. All he wants you is to ask and be sincere. Seriously, go to him and beg him for that. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's nothing, it's really nothing to ask of. It's a very basic thing. And yet we have become so hard in our hearts that we say, oh no, I'm too good for this. I don't need this. SubhanAllah. I don't need the forgiveness of my Lord. This is what some people say. I'm above this. I already know I do good deeds. I already know I do X, Y, Z. I'm not in need of the forgiveness of my Lord. You know, there's a story. Okay, we're going way off topic. We haven't even gotten into the actual. I don't know what it is.
Right now.
There's a story. I just want to drill this point in, okay? Seeking forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not feeling entitled to anything, even if you're a person who you believe does good deeds and who the community recognizes that this person is a person who does good deeds. If you don't seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there will be nothing that will save you. There's a story of a man, and I believe he was like the cousin or the uncle of Aisha radiallahu anha. He was related to Aisha in some way, okay? He was from the noblemen of Quraysh, and he was well known to be an extremely generous man, an extremely kind man. He would donate, and he would feed the poor, and he would clothe them, and he would give them a place to sleep, and he would help the orphans. Like, in terms of character, he was superb. He was known for this. He was known for his good character in Mecca. but he passed away before Islam came. Okay, so he didn't encounter Islam. Aisha went to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She asked him, Ya Rasulullah, you know this man was a good man. Will he go to Jannah? He never saw Islam. Will he go to Jannah? And the reply of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was, no. He won't. Why? He didn't ask. He didn't say, "Oh, be once in his life." He didn't ask for forgiveness from his Lord once in his life. Once in his life, he didn't even do that. Okay. Now you may be thinking, well, how will we know who Allah is? The Quraysh knew that there was a Lord. They knew that. Okay, and they believed in Allah. They just believed that the idols would get them closer to Allah. We covered this a little bit more in detail before. I'm not going to go into all the details now. He didn't ask forgiveness from Allah once in his life, although he was doing everything correctly in terms of his actions. You see now the importance that we're talking about here. Is it clear? There are many examples of this in the Quran as well. An example of Qarun, who thought basically, although he was a disbeliever entirely, and he wasn't really known for doing good things, but rather he accumulated a great deal of wealth and a great deal of properties and luxury and fame. And what did he say after all that? He said, indeed, I have acquired all of this because of my own knowledge and my own expertise and my own skills. And he was boastful and he was prideful. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed him. You need to ask forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not only ask, but beg your Lord to be forgiven at any point in time. Like, that's just the reality of things. And if you adopt this constant mindset of humbleness, being humble, not in front of other people. Well, you need to be humble in front of other people as well, but humbled in front of your Lord. You know, one of the things that the Mufti Munir, he always stresses on is like this concept of fake piety, fake humbleness. Where, you know, in front of the Muslims, in front of your brothers and sisters, you'll act like a pious Muslim and be very humble. But that doesn't matter as much as your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala matters. Are you actually humble in front of your Lord? That's what it really comes down to. Okay? There's a hadith Qudsi that I'm sure everyone has heard of in some way, shape, or form today. Not today. You're going to hear it today, inshallah. We probably heard it in some way, shape, or form before. Where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala essentially tells the Prophet that, I'm not going to go through the whole hadith, it's a quite long hadith, but I am as my servant thinks of me. Right? If my servant remembers me in a gathering, before that, if my servant remembers me, I'll remember him myself. If my servant remembers me in a gathering, I'll remember him in a gathering better than his. Okay? And then the hadith continues, if he draws close to him by an arm's length, I'll draw close to him by a longer length than that. If he comes to walking, comes to him running, etc., etc. All right? Now the scholars commented on this. That what this hadith is really showing us and teaching us is that a condition, or one of the conditions, one of the prerequisites of your actions being accepted in the first place is you having the belief that Allah will accept it from you. This is a very powerful concept. When you ask forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you need to ask forgiveness from Allah knowing that He is Al-Ghafur, Al-Ghaffar, that this is His attribute, this is one of His names. This is an attribute of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Allah says He's more merciful, then when Allah says He's the most merciful and that His mercy overtakes His wrath. When you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for mercy, you need to have conviction that I am asking the one who is the most merciful. I'm asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who is the most merciful, who is the most forgiving, who is the oft-forgiven, the always forgiving, who loves when His slaves come to Him and ask Him for forgiveness and ask Him for mercy. When you have this conviction and when you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this manner, then inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept it. Is that clear? But if you're asking from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not believing that He's the most merciful, not believing that He's the most forgiving, not believing that He's whatever the case may be, that's where there's a problem now. Does that make sense? Any questions? This is a very powerful concept. If you do anything in your life with this in mind, you will find ease and you'll be content. And when you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for things with this in mind, that Allah is Al-Wahhab, the giver of gifts. Allah is Al-Mughni, the enricher. He does not need anyone to give him anything, and he gives everything to everyone. When you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowing his names, this is why you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala using his names, using his attributes. Because this is one of the things that will allow your dua to get accepted. Wait, is that clear? Okay. SubhanAllah. What I was going to talk about today is actually, it's a little bit similar, but we were speaking last time. Not going to recap what we spoke about last time, but we spoke about, in brief, we spoke about the covenant that we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay, the contract that you have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what did we speak about also? We spoke about these stages of da'wah. You guys are witnesses. So we spoke about the stages of da'wah and how the Prophet ﷺ had 5 stages of da'wah. And then we spoke about some of the misconceptions people have with regards to how Islam was spread and how the da'wah was propagated. And we spoke about how the Prophet ﷺ gave us 10 commandments for battle, essentially. That if you are in a state of battle or a state of war, even then you must remain civil, you must remain merciful, you must remain respectful. You cannot attack women, you cannot attack children, you cannot attack the elderly, you cannot destroy crops, you cannot destroy cities, you cannot kill sheep and cattle for no reason, unless you want to eat them. This is a valid reason. But you can't harass them. You can't go and attack places of worship or people praying in these places of worship. They're not Muslim, huh? They could be committing shirk. They could be committing whatever the case may be. You're not allowed to go and kill these people. Right? Now, what we want to talk about today is, Ibn al-Qayyim, rahimahullah, he basically identifies this concept of jihad. Okay. Oh, big scary word. What does this mean? This is very important for us as Muslims to understand what it means. Because otherwise, it becomes very easy for us to just hear chirp, chirp, chirp from the media and say, oh my God, what is this concept in the religion? Okay? What is the essence of jihad? What does it mean? It means striving for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay? Striving for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there are 4 kinds of striving. Yes.
Is it said, I remember hearing this before, but I just want to confirm, the biggest form of jihad is against your own desire.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I was going to say that. Jihad al-nafs is one of the types of jihad, and this is called jihad al-akbar, the great form of jihad, the greatest form of jihad, striving against yourself. So people that come and say Islam is a violent religion, Islam propagates war. Next. Give me something else. This is not a valid, this is seriously. Come at me with something a little bit stronger than that at least, right? Let's get into the types of jihad. Guys, we can't keep on going into tangents. I understand these side conversations. Later. Jihad al-nafs is the first kind of jihad, which means what? Striving against yourself for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The next type is jihad against shaitan. Striving against shaitan. The next jihad is jihad against the kafirs, and then jihad against the hypocrites or the innovators. And we're not going to go into all of them because some of them are not very pertinent to our particular point in time right now. Okay? But what is pertinent to us is jihad al-nafs. Okay? Striving against ourselves as well as striving against the shaitan. Okay? These are important. Jihad al-nafs has 4 levels to it. What do you guys think the first level is? We actually covered this. I never categorized it as striving for the sake of Allah when I spoke to you about it. But let's see who can make this connection. Do you have any smart cookies? No? What is the first step of jihad al-nafs? What is the first step of striving against yourself for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
Fighting desires.
Fighting desires. Okay, fine. We can kind of say in a broader term that this is what striving against yourself is. But what is the first level? Yes, in the back. Purifying your heart. Okay, how do you do that? Educating yourself. This is the first step. Learning, knowledge. That's the first step. Learning Islam, particularly the teachings of Islam, without which one cannot attain success or happiness in the world or the hereafter. Okay? So if you miss out on this step, i.e., you don't have any knowledge of Islam, and we're not talking about, every single person needs to go out and be an alim, be a scholar. No, that's not what people are referring to at all. Not everyone is going to be equal in their knowledge of Islam. But the basic tenets of faith, the basic tenets of Islam that will allow you to understand Islam and basically live your life according to it. Okay? I kind of just gave away the second part. What's the second stage? Living your life according to that, which is action. Okay, that's the second stage. So you can't just learn Islam and then, oh, I'm not going to do anything about it anymore. I learned and learned and learned, but I'm just going to sit down and do nothing. I'm not going to pray. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to pay the cat. I'm not going to stay away from riba. I'm not going to, you know what I mean? If you have the knowledge, then you must act upon it, because otherwise it will become a hujjah upon you. And there's a famous quote. One of the great scholars of Islam, his name is Sufyan al-Thawri. Okay, he was around the time of Abu Hanifa and Imam Malik. Okay, he's one of the basically the early generations of this ummah. So around that time, his mom taught him Islam. Okay, his mom was a very knowledgeable woman. She taught him Islam, and she also encouraged his learning of Islam. But she told her son a very powerful reminder. Listen to this. Make sure you learn knowledge with the intention that is sincere, i.e. acting upon it for the sake of Allah. Because if you don't, then this knowledge will be a proof against you on the day of judgment. If you learn and you don't act upon it in a correct manner, i.e. you learn and now you're disobeying Allah intentionally, that's when this knowledge becomes a problem for you. Is that clear? So you must learn. Number one, the second step is to act upon it. What's the third step? To call upon it, okay? So striving to call others to Islam, teaching those who do not know about it, and this is exactly what we have just done with the da'wah booth. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to purify our intentions and to accept from us. Say Ameen. Ameen. Otherwise, if you don't do this, if you are one of the people who conceal that which Allah has revealed in terms of guidance and teaching, it will not benefit him or save him. Okay? So you can't just sit down and not tell others about it, particularly the people you're responsible for, i.e. your family, your wife, children, whatever the case may be. All right? Whatever capacity you have, your younger siblings. If you know something and you have the ability to act on it and understand it, then you must also advise those around you, particularly those who you love, because they have a greater right upon you to teach them that which is correct. Now,
Is it important that that's what it is, but that the second one is done before you do the third? You know what I'm saying? Because if you're not acting upon it, you might know something, but you might not be acting, but then you go and you tell people that, you know what I'm saying?
it is. That's why I'm giving you the steps. One step and the next. If you're not practicing it and you're telling other people about it, then you might make yourself a hypocrite. You go and tell people, you gotta pray, you gotta give zakat, you gotta do X, Y, Z. But I'm not praying, I'm not giving zakat, I'm not doing X, Y, Z. Okay, you gotta be very careful with that as well. Like the fourth thing is to be patient, because people are going to give you a hard time, and people are going to insult you. And like this is what they did with the Prophet ﷺ. This is what they did with all of the prophets in our history. Every single prophet basically got some form of ridicule. His people called him a magician, his people called him a crook, his people called him this, that, crazy, madman, whatever the case may be. But the prophets were patient with that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewarded them for their patience. Now, if, okay, this is probably beyond the scope of what we have to say today. Just in general, yes. Okay, very good question. Very good question. Question was, if you're basically, doing something and calling to something, but perhaps you're struggling with it and you're not perfect at it, can you still call others to it? Or must you yourself reach a perfect level before you start calling others to it? Very common question. The answer is no. Because you will never achieve a level of absolute perfection. You're not the Prophet ﷺ, right? The important thing is you are sincerely trying to do it in the best way possible. That's what matters. Right? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها, Allah will not burden a soul more than what it can handle, more than what it is capable of. Okay? Perhaps Hamza can pray Qiyam al-Layl every single night. And Allah has given him the strength to do so. And perhaps I struggle with it. I know it's a good thing and I do my best to do it. Perhaps I struggle with it. Does that mean I don't encourage anyone to pray Qiyam? No. Okay? You do your best in your life. You do the absolute best you can. The problem comes when you're purposely, intentionally staying away from something and then you're calling others to it. So you know it's true and you can do it, but you're staying away from it. Like, for example, I have money and I'm not paying zakat. I'm withholding zakat because I'm weak. I know Allah has obligated zakat, but I'm staying away from it. Now that's a problem. And now I'm going and telling other people, you guys gotta pay zakat. What's wrong with you guys? Look at yourself first. You're not paying zakat. How can you go and preach something that you are doing the exact opposite of? That's a problem. Allah, you're doing your best. You're striving and you're sincere. This is what it comes down to. This is why we focus so much on intention and sincerity. This is why I gave a whole class, the first introductory class, about sincerity and intentions. Because we cannot start anything in life without sincerity and intention. It starts with that. And if you got that nailed down, then everything else will come. Okay? If you're sincere in what you do, then inshallah, your actions will be accepted. When you call others to it and you're sincere, even if you're not at a perfect level, but you're sincere, you want to get to that perfect level, you want your Muslim brothers and sisters to also get to that perfect level. You want to increase yourself in knowledge, you want to increase yourself in righteous action, you want to increase yourself in closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're sincere in that. You want the same thing for your Muslim brothers and sisters. Yes.
What if your intention before doing the act is really for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but then after that you don't seek for people's like reassurance, but then when you do, you get that reassurance and that satisfaction. They're like, oh, someone's like something, oh, good job. Does that ruin your intention for it and like the reward for it? Like, as in, like, perhaps if I'm going to give a dollar right now, but then after then you come to know, mashallah, like that was so amazing, and then that kind of makes me want to do more, but also like, you know what I mean?
Right. So, question in case you guys can hear that in the back. What if you're doing something with pure intentions, you're sincere, but then other people are coming and they're basically validating you or they're giving you praise, and now you start kind of liking that praise. You know, you feel good that someone is praising you. Now, what do we do with this? Okay, this is why, number one, we should not be overpraising people. Okay, and this is actually a thing that the Salaf of the Ummah used to practice. The first earlier generations of the Ummah, they would not go and just praise right and left. And if they would praise someone, they would also try to ensure that it was behind their back, i.e., brother gave me a look, i.e., Walid is not in the room, he's somewhere else, but now I'm telling Luca, Walid is such a great brother, man. Like, wallahi, I love him for the sake of Allah, he's such a pure brother, okay? And I'm not over-exaggerating or saying, oh, Walid is infallible, Walid is this or that, because then that's okay, whoa, hold your horses, okay? Don't over-exaggerate, give praise that is a good amount of praise, but also, if Walid is constantly hearing praise, it may be more difficult for him than to correct his intention. Because now you're getting praise from this person and praise from that person, and you're feeling really good about all the praise, and now you start seeking the praise of the people and forgetting the praise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you later on. Right? Yes.
Really the manners in that almost last the person giving the praise. Like you know what I'm saying? Like he asked it from a perspective of the person getting the praise.
Yes.
But really what we have to focus on, I guess, as brothers and sisters, is the person giving the praise.
Yeah. So the person giving the praise needs to be cognizant.
Yeah.
Man, our religion is such a beautiful, complete religion. Like there's a way to give praise too. Imagine
Basically
that.
saying like if somebody gets too much praise, it can kind of get them in a state of thinking, oh, I don't have to do as much now because they feel like good about what they're like. It's kind of avoiding that kind of situation, right?
So this is kind of like a side topic, to be honest. But yes, theoretically, if if you're constantly being praised and your heart is drawn now to the praise of the people, and you start doing things for the sake of getting praise from the people, now this is very problematic, right? You're not doing things for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala anymore. And you're sufficing yourself with other than Allah now because you're doing it for something else. And you're getting satisfaction from that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you need to be cognizant of that. If people are praising you, you need to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hadam and Fadl Rabbi. This is from the blessing and the blessing. Blessing is a good translation for that. This is from the blessing of my Lord. I wouldn't have been able to do this without my Lord. Okay, and don't just say it to the people to show them, oh, look at me, I'm so humble, but genuinely mean it. And thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for it when no one else is watching. That's how you know you're sincere. Okay? And when you're praising other people, be accurate in your praise. Be moderate and accurate in your praise. Don't go and start elevating them. And really, if you think about it, this is actually what happened with the Christians. They praised Jesus and they praised him until they elevated him to the status of God. And the Prophet ﷺ told us, he told us as an ummah, do not overpraise me the way the Christians overpraised Isa ibn Maryam. Don't do that. That's wrong. So there's moderation when it comes to praise as well. Did that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. When we get into the striving against shaitan, there's two types here. The first type is warding off the doubts that he stirs up to undermine faith. The first type is warding off the doubts that shaitan stirs within us. Shaitan will try to plant seeds in our hearts. He'll try to whisper things in our ear. He'll try to cause doubt left and right. The first type of striving for the sake of Allah against shaitan is warding off these doubts. Okay. The second type is striving against him to ward off the corrupt desires that he provokes. Okay. What does this mean? Like the first type is basically established through a certainty in faith. Okay. So shaitan is going to try to tell you, what if Allah is not this? What if the Prophet wasn't this? What if this? He'll try to make you question your faith. Okay, the fundamentals, the basis of your faith. The first type is making sure you have certainty. You have yaqeen. Yaqeen means certainty, particularly in your faith. Okay, and the second type is patience. Why? Because shaitan is going to try to basically provoke your desires. He's going to try to beautify things for you. He'll try to make you do this and do that. He knows what your desires are. And he's going to try to beautify this desire, beautify that desire, and cause you to fall into this desire and that desire, and mistake left and right. So once you establish certainty in your faith, now you have to ward off what shaitan is telling you to do in terms of desires through your patience. You're going to have to be patient. Life is a test. And there's no test except that you have to endure it with patience. Okay, is that clear? So yeah. There's a lot of other things that I want to talk about, but we're gonna skip that because we're running out of time. It's been like what, 40 minutes now? 45 minutes. Okay. We'll end off with this. We'll end off with an ayah and a hadith. What we need to talk about now is we get to our conundrum. Okay? We get to our problem. What is our problem? What is a problem that plagues Muslims in this time, in this day and age?
Thinking you've done too much bad that now you're like stuck in like that state.
It's actually a good problem. It's a bad problem, but it's a good point. Okay, that wasn't what I was referring to. Like, let's read an ayah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, ومن الناس من يقول آمنا بالله فإذا أوذي في الله جعل فتنة الناس كعذاب الله ولئن جاء نصر من ربك ليقولن إنا كنا معكم أوليس الله بأعلم بما في صدور العالمين. Okay, so this ayah is saying, it's a very important ayah, and I want everyone, like if you're gonna take one thing out of this whole time we spent today, take this thing, okay? That Allah is telling us, He's informing us. That means it is for sure. This is happening. Okay? This happened in the past. It's happening now. It's going to continue happening in the what? The future. Allah is telling us there are some people who say, "Man yaqulu amanna billah," they say we believe in Allah. فَإِذَا أُوذِيَ فِي اللَّهِ جَعَلَ فِتْنَةَ النَّاسِ كَعَذَابِ اللَّهِ. But then when they suffer in the cause of Allah, when they are afflicted with some sort of test or some sort of calamity as they're striving for the cause of Allah, جَعَلَ فِتْنَةَ النَّاسِ كَعَذَابِ اللَّهِ. This is very dangerous here. Pay attention here. They make or they mistake the punishment of the people or the persecution at the hands of the people for the punishment or the persecution of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's paint a picture. When someone is trying to do good and he's being tested in this goodness that he's doing for the sake of Allah, and now people are coming to him and they're resisting, they're giving him a difficult time, he equates the punishment of the people as the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he says, I'd rather not get the punishment of the people. And so he succumbs to what the people want. I.e., he gives up this thing that he was doing for the sake of Allah. Does that make sense? Does this concept make sense? Allah is warning against this. He's saying there are people who say this, okay? And it's a bad thing. It's a bad mentality, but it's difficult. So we don't want to be here sitting here as Muslims saying, oh, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. Yeah, okay, who are you, Mr. Wonderful? You have no struggles? Are you immune? Are you infallible? You think you can just pass any test without any struggle? That's not the case. No, you acknowledge. So this is the balance that we need to maintain. We can never say that something bad is right. We can never make something wrong into something correct because it's difficult or because the people are resisting. Okay? That's what we can't do. But at the same time,